This is the explanation to the CFA 3, the box and whiskers. So one of the things you want to look at is the overall trend of what's happening here. So read the prompt here. This is a teacher is gathering data on two chemistry classes. One is the first hour and the second one is the fifth hour. So these are the box and whiskers of the morning class and the afternoon class. And in general, you can see how the morning class tends to trend higher than the afternoon class. But we need to prove this with actual data. So come down here, and the first question is, what is the median score for the afternoon class versus the morning class? So let's do PM class. The median, again, is the middle number, which is this one right here. That's 75. And then the median for the morning class is this right here, which falls right there, and that's 87.5. Okay, so that's between 85 and 90 is 87.5. So the question wants the actual number, but then it also wants to know what conclusions can you draw. So you would say something to the effect that 50% of afternoon classes, I should have put PM, but anyway, 50% of afternoon classes did worse than 75 and better than 75. What am I saying there? I'm saying that in the afternoon class, this is half, so 50% is this way, did worse than 75, and another 50% did better. Okay, so you could repeat the same question or the same answer for the morning class, that 50% of morning class, I'll put AM class, did better or did worse than 87.5 and better than that. And again, I'm comparing the morning class, 50% did worse than that number and 50% did better. Okay, on top of that, you should also probably compare the differences between the two. And so you would say also, a third point here, you would say that AM is 12.5 points higher than PM. What am I doing there? I am taking these two numbers and I'm subtracting them to find the difference. And the difference between 87.5 and 75 is 12.5. So I'm giving you proof with numbers that the AM class is higher or better scoring than the afternoon class. And that's the exact supporting data that I need you to put on the test. I need you to put numbers like this. Question 2 says, what are the interquartile ranges of the class versus the morning, and what conclusions can you draw? So interquartile range is called IQR. That's just the stands for that, for AM, and the IQR for PM. And so this is just the range of the data in the box. So if you take a look at the box right here for the afternoon, the range of that is 70 and 85, right? So what's the range? 70 minus 85 is 15. That's the range, okay? Again, I take the Q3 and the Q1 and when I subtract it, the space here between these two is called the IQR, and that's 15 points. The IQR for the AM class will be found the same way. Here is this number, that's 82.5. All the way here, this is probably what, 93, 92. So let's just do that, and we will get that number here as 82.5, and let's make that 90. Let's just make that 92.5. That way we have like even numbers. So if you subtract that, that's 10, right? So let's just say that's 10. It's about 10. So it's a good educated guess. So what conclusions can you draw from it? The shorter the IQR, the more consistent the data is, because 50% of the data is inside of this box, 50%. So if the box is small, a lot of the scores are inside of this box. Half the scores, 50%. So it's more consistent. So you say the AM scores are more consistent than the PM scores because the PM IQR is more spread out. And that makes sense because it's 15 is more spread out than 10. So that's how you justify that answer. Then the last one is, what conclusions can you draw from comparing the data in the box? Well, the conclusion was what we stated in the beginning of the video, is that morning class did better, right? That's obvious. But we need to support it by using data. So let's see what matches here. These two guys match up. So the conclusion you can draw is that this is 25% of morning did better than 100% of afternoon. That's one thing that you can think about. 25% did better than 100. You could also kind of look at, maybe here, this is kind of close, but not quite. But you could say something like almost, right? Because it's not quite the same. You could say almost 100% of morning did better than 50% of afternoon, right? So you compare, when you compare two box and whiskers, one goes one way compared to the other one going the other way. So let's write that down. So morning did better than afternoon. And then you provide your evidence because, and then here we go, let's do this yellow part where it says 25% of morning did better than 100. 25% of AM scored better than 100% of PM. That's one supporting. The other supporting documentation that we have was this blue one, where almost 100% of morning did better than 50% of afternoon. So you could say that too. Almost 100% of morning AM did better than PM. Than 50%. We said 50%, right? Than 50% of PM classes. So on the test, I'm going to ask you these questions, and I'm going to ask you to provide evidence on every single question. I'm going to ask you to provide evidence, and that evidence needs to be number evidence, like I did here. 50%, 50%, 12.5. Those are numbers based off of our box and whiskers. And here, when your IQR is smaller, the word is consistent, like the data is more compacted. When the IQR is big, it's more spread out, less consistent. And then your overall, you need to compare the percent of one versus the percent of the other. You can see how I wrote the percent of AM did better than 100 of PM, or 100 of AM did better than 50% of PM. Those kind of evidences is what I need on the quiz. I hope that helps.